Hi, I'm Rebecca from Little Adventure Shop, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Katy from Blaze Trails, and we're going to talk to you about some top tips and ways to prepare to go hiking in the winter with your baby. So Katy, thanks so much for joining me today, and just tell our audience a bit more about Blaze Trails.
Lovely, thank you. So Blaze Trails is the UK's parent and baby walking community. We have over 50 parent and baby walking groups all around the country who meet every week for free baby carrying, pushchair and toddler walks. And we're all about kind of building up parents' confidence to get outside. And yeah, we walk in all weathers. So
you get asked quite a lot of questions, I'm guessing, about how to best to get out in the winter and make sure the baby's warm enough, etc., etc. So we thought we'd start by talking about there's kind of two roads you can take in terms of how to carry your baby, and that kind of influences how you're going to dress them as well. So Katy, starting with, if we're going with the soft carriers where you carry your baby primarily on the front.
Yep, I can show you. So lots of parents will kind of have either a soft carrier like this that's got a buckle, or they might have a sling, which is like a really kind of cozy, stretchy wrap to keep your baby nice and close. If you're using one of those during winter, you'll find that your baby is going to be benefiting from your body temperature. They're nice and close to you. What we tend to say is that babies and toddlers should have one more layer than you, and that's because they regulate their temperature differently to adults. So to make sure they stay warm and also don't overheat, you want to consider that the baby carrier is kind of one layer as well, and they should, if you're wearing them, we'd recommend having kind of either a big puffer coat over you or like a waterproof.
Something you can really wrap round and keep them cocooned inside.
Exactly, round with you. You can get special baby wearing coats. You can also get waterproof and fleece lined covers that just go over your carrier and sort of tuck their feet in. But either way, what you'll find is that your baby's core will be warmer, so it's always a good idea to think about their extremities. That's kind of feet and hands, and you can use like booties, like fleece lined or waterproof booties for those, or like long fleece socks, calf length socks. You can also do sort of nice long gloves or mitts that have got a nice
it's definitely worth. It's the same with legs, isn't it? It goes kind of beyond the ankle or the wrist. Try and go up further because they're much more likely to stay on. And
you'll get that overlap that keeps all the nice warm air inside. Then so once they're kind of on you and cozy, they should be okay. The main thing to think about then will be having some kind of protection for their neck, like a buff or a scarf.
Neck gaiter, snood, or various names, or the same thing.
And then a hat. And so that can be kind of nice and warm, but also waterproof hats are great as well, so that they don't get a wet head. So that's most of what you have to think about if you've got a soft structured carrier, whether on your front or your back.
And of course, if you're carrying your baby on what we'd call a baby back carrier, they're not going to be benefiting from that body warmth because they're basically removed from you. There's a gap between them and them and you. So we've got one here. Now this has got, this is an Osprey baby carrier, and we've got the rain cover on it already just to show you. But obviously they're kind of sitting behind you. They're getting much more wind and rain, and they're going to be much more affected by the conditions. I know I've made mistakes in the past and ended up with a very cold child in the back because I hadn't dressed them properly and just had underestimated how cold they were going to be getting, because I was nice and warm because I was walking around carrying them, but they were meanwhile getting really quite cold. So if I rotate this round, and Katy, you can show people get this out of the way.
So when your baby's inside, you'll find that they're kind of much more exposed. Their legs might be out. We tend to suggest, as well as booties and stuff, if you've got a child who might get down on the ground, having sort of warm wellies, so that might be fleece-lined wellies or snow boots, or even like some brands make walking boots for toddlers that are much thicker. Again, then if they're not walking kind of, or they're stationary for a while, you want something that's going to offer a number of layers between them and the cold. We would also suggest, if they are toddling, to get them down every half an hour or so that they can kind of get their heart rate going and get the blood circulating, get nice and warm. But the rain cover's a brilliant idea. Obviously in the UK we get a lot of rainy weather, But even if it's not raining during the winter, it's great to have just that extra shelter around them. It
kind of
takes
acts
the wind
like
off.
almost like a little tent for them to stay in. So it's definitely worth using if it's windy and not wet. I would definitely recommend putting the rain cover on just to give them that extra protection. Okay, so I guess that's great. And then next up is, what is your child actually going to be wearing when they're in one of these in the winter? So we'll come to that in a moment. Okay, so as we said earlier, it's really important if you're going to take your baby out hiking with you in the winter that you dress them appropriately. So we've both learned a lot of lessons, some of them the hard way. So we're going to talk you through how we dressed our children when they were younger, when they were in the baby back carriers.
So for us, it's all about layers.
Yeah.
We would start with a really kind of comfortable base layer that fits nice and snugly. Here we've got a nice slimline top.
Yeah.
And trousers. So
and they're not cotton, they're synthetic fabric, and some people feel a bit funny about that, but the great thing about synthetic fabric is that if they do get wet, have the nappy leaks a bit, cotton really holds onto that water and hold it next to the skin, whereas synthetic fabric takes the water away, it doesn't hold on to water, so it's a really good thing to wear against the skin. And
it keeps you nice and warm.
Then
some socks. So socks are going to be really crucial, nice and thick, that come all the way up to make sure they're nice and overlapping with your baby's trousers, and that are nice and kind of thick and puffy. So there's going to be lots of air trapped in the fabric.
I know we've over the years sold a lot of ski socks, to like really small ski socks to parents, because they come right up to their knees, so they they stay on, which is really handy. Otherwise they're always sliding off, aren't they? And
really good for baby carriers if when the baby sat in the seat, it might be that some of their clothes slightly runch up a little bit, so anything that's a bit longer where that overlap is
really
longer, you won't get any gaps of cold.
And next
we would then have like a mid layer, so a fleece layer. This is going to be the bit that really traps that nice warm air. Nice and lightweight. We've got a fleece here and fleece trousers. Again, they're going to kind of fit they're not going to be too puffy, but they're going to create a nice layer of warm air between the base layer and outer.
And just on a practical note, I mean, mine lived in this sort of stuff for nursery and everything else. It just washes really easily. It's just really easy stuff to have around the house, isn't it?
Quick drying, nice and warm. Nice and light.
But fleece is so fleece is really warm, but it's not windproof. So you're going to have something over the top to really keep them warm.
Totally. And whether or not it's raining or not, you want something to keep the wind chill off and also to keep you nice and dry. So we've got these sort of salopette style trousers that come up really nice and high. They're waterproof, and these are great, aren't they, for children that want to get down out of the carrier, because they could pretty much sit in a puddle.
They're properly waterproof. Don't mess around, just get something that's really properly waterproof, and then it doesn't matter if it's just windy or it's windy and wet, that you tick both boxes, it's fine. And they come up nice and high, so that when you've got your jacket over the top, there's not going to be any middle bits that get really cold. It's going to come down nice and low. And the thing we love about these kinds of trousers is that if they've got the ankle, the sort of stirrup bits, if you've got nice warm boots on or wellies, these will kind of hook under the heel and keep them on, which is really useful in the carrier, because they do like to sometimes kick off their boots. Obviously that might be okay when the weather is sort of warmer, but you don't want children with no shoes or any other extra layers on around their feet, because they will get really cold in a carrier. Exactly. These are quite handy just for that keeping they're designed to keep the trouser leg down, but they're also quite good in a carrier to keep the boots in place as well. So and then accessory wise we've got
again, sort of extremities, keeping them really cool. So, not like really warm, to make sure they don't get too cool. For babies that are maybe pre-walkers or they're just thinking about walking, these booties are brilliant. So they're waterproof. They're going to keep them nice and dry, but they're also puffy. They've got a nice filler, so they'll keep them warm. And they're robust enough on the bottom to be able to get down. And maybe sort of if you're, if they're toddling and they need a hand, you might be able to get down for a little bit. They wouldn't go hiking in these, but that you can put them down on the ground.
And I think feet's a really important thing to think about, actually, because with something like this, there's quite a lot of room in them, so they can wriggle their toes around and to keep the blood flowing. And we were talking earlier about baby all-in-ones. They are great, but the problem is when you put your baby in a baby carrier, quite often the bit under their crotch moves up and then it tightens around their feet, so you can end up with really quite restricted feet. And if your feet are sort of restricted, it's going to reduce the blood flow, they're going to get colder. So it's really good actually to maybe some baby all-in-ones do have like really long legs, to take that into account, but a lot don't. So if you've got the feet enclosed, just look out for that. If it's getting a bit on the small side, it's probably going to be too tight when you sit them in the baby carrier around their feet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So having something separate that can,
exactly,
stretch a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So similarly for gloves, it's great to have something that comes up just that bit higher. You're going to keep all the nice warm air in, and if they get down and play, they're not going to get kind of loads of splashes. It will keep them nice and enclosed.
Yeah, yeah.
And then hats as well. A waterproof hat's a great shout. If your baby's head, definitely warm, but if your baby's head gets wet at all, you could end up with getting quite a poorly child quite quickly. So something that's waterproof and warm is brilliant. And something with a nice chin strap. A lot of parents talk about their babies just chucking hats off all the time. They can't do that with a nice secure
If you've got a nice
like
chunk of Velcro across there, it's not much harder for them to get it off. So.
Exactly. And then the final thing that we always recommend is some kind of protection for the neck. And that means whether or not they've got their hat on and off, or whatever kind of they've got layered up, their neck and their back is going to be really nice and warm.
Yeah, because quite often if it's very windy, the drafts will get down the neck as well. So that's definitely worth putting on. And also, obviously, on top of that, I would have taken like an extra fleece or an extra pair of fleece trousers or something. If it's going to be really cold, you've just got something extra to chuck on top as you're going along if you need to. And obviously, as well as clothing, you're going to want sort of hot chocolate or something, and plenty of snacks to keep them going. What else will you get?
So making sure that you know like where you're going, navigating. I think it's different in the summer. You might meander a little bit more. In the wintertime, you want to make sure that you are clear with your route, that you've got kind of a plan B if you need to change your route, if the weather changes, or if your child gets really cold or you get cold, to be able to adapt and get back to your car or your train station or wherever safely.
Yeah. And I just think, again, reiterating, you're likely to be feeling an awful lot warmer than your child is, because you'll be working hard, and obviously the bigger they are, the heavier they are as well. So just always bear that in mind when you're walking in the winter. So great. I hope you found these tips useful. Obviously, we've covered as much as we could in the time, but we won't be able to cover everything. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the comments below, or any other advice. It'd be great. Just share it with us. Also, we're going to put a link below to Blaze Trails. So if you're interested in their hikes, it's a fantastic way of meeting new friends, but having more support, particularly if you just become a new parent. So have a look there. There's all the group information and loads more information about how to get your baby and yourself out and about. And thanks for watching. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so. It really helps. And if you hit the like button, that's brilliant. Many thanks.